Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and more Dead Man's Hand here as we work our way through the good factions. Today we're taking a look at the Stranger, which is one of the newer ones, and if I'm not mistaken, based roughly on High Plains Drifter from Clint Eastwood way back in, I think, the 70s. So, correct me if I'm wrong, though. But so we got quite a few things going on in the list, so let's dig in here. So, half the gang has to be armed with pistols as their sole ranged weapon. Again, pretty common rule here for most of the gangs. The Stranger's special rules are detailed below, and he is a deadly killer. No emotions, no remorse, no guilt, no fear. The rest of the gang is made up from the citizens of Dead Man's Hand. Some are more capable with a gun than others. If mounted characters are permitted, then one character may be equipped with a lasso, which probably would be the Stranger in most cases. So speaking of that, Stranger has some special rules unique to themselves. So there's a whip. He's armed with a whip. Any opponent in combat with the Stranger suffers -1 in their hand-to-hand. So pretty cool there. We've seen a lot of factions that get bonuses in hand-to-hand, but this guy actually just kind of debuffs opponents. So pretty cool ability there. Nerves of Steel. Stranger doesn't have a value for nerve tests, doesn't feel emotions, so doesn't need to take a test. He spent a lifetime being shot at. A few more shots don't make a difference. He never takes a nerve test. Even special rules and cards such as Yellow Belly cannot force him to fail a nerve test. So just ignores nerve tests in any way, shape, or form. Now, in any scene where the Stranger is present and alive on the table, there is no need for a big nerve test for the Stranger and any remaining characters. So while he's alive, the townsfolk are filled with filled with hope and will not flee. So a pretty potent ability. So just basically turns that whole thing off while he's alive, which makes it important to keep him alive too. Quicker than you'll ever live to be. The Stranger can take one quick shot interruption as normal, but when interrupting may take 2 shots rather than the normal 1. If the Stranger's initiative card is a Joker, he gets 3 shots, which is just bonkers. So if you are indeed playing with the Joker too, yeah, that could just be like the worst time to have your opponent pull that on you, like, oh, by the way, I'm just going to take 3 quick shots at you. So theoretically, in a turn, the Stranger could, I guess, take 6 total shots, right? Three pistol shots in their activation, and then pull this, and then, or no, they can't. Sorry, yeah, because they'd be reacting, and then have to already have gone. So, sorry, we're getting a little too crazy there. Getting too creative with that. So now, so 3 shots regardless, but yeah, 3 as a reaction. If you haven't gone yet, player has to respect that. So no turning back. The Stranger may not choose to use the duck back interruption. So he's, again, fearless basically. So kind of a limitation there, but makes sense thematically, right? So just gotta know that that is something you can't do. Grease Lightning. The Stranger's never out of ammo due to a natural roll of 1. He can still be affected by the 2 card, though, for a few bullets more as normal. So, but basically, yeah, if you're rolling the 1 on your actual shots, you can just ignore that. So again, another potent ability. And then finally, the Stranger may not use any of the Stranger faction-specific cards. Other cards can be played on him as normal. So we'll get to the cards here in just a second, but we'll see those are some really useful cards. But yeah, he, given all his other abilities, can't have the face cards played on him, but 2 through 10 is still viable, essentially. So speaking of the Stranger, let's finally get to this. And again, as typical, we got to take him. We, unlike the normal order, though, where we'd have to take the sort of average figure, here we actually just have to take at least the volunteer. So a little bit of a disruption there, but that's one thing I love about Dead Man's Hand. Very similar in a lot of the factions, you know, there's not that many different weapons and all that, but there's just enough subtle little changes between army composition or force composition here, some of the weapons that are available, and then the way the cards mix in with everything. It really keeps all the factions varied. Anyway, the Stranger, pistol and a whip, 5 hits, no nerve tests, +3 to shooting, so that's above average. Normally our elite guy, which in this case would be the sheriff, would have that +2 bump versus the +1 as normal. This guy is just a house, so +3 built-in shooting. So if you can get close with that pistol, you're looking at like a +5, maybe even a +6 if you do the aim. Yeah, that's nasty. He should be dropping a lot of opponents. Even built-in +2 hand-to-hand, plus the opponent gets a -1 to their hand-to-hand value. So he's actually quite deadly no matter where he is. That being said, unlike most figures where they're like 5 to 6 rep, 5 leaders, that is. He is a massive 10 rep, so that is going to be quite a chunk. So smaller games, you're going to definitely be outnumbered, but hopefully you can get him into prime positions to knock out some opponents. Bigger games, you can kind of mitigate that a little bit. But the normal order here is again upsetted, so we have to have multiple volunteers, not necessarily the upstanding citizens. But let's take a look at our first sort of regular character. We can have one sheriff. He only gets a pistol. 4 hits, 2+ nerve, no bonus to shooting here, and hand to hand, but he does have a 3 for rep, so just a pretty solid character. And really, you're getting him for the nerve. He's got the same nerve as a normal leader would have, but no other perks as far as bonuses. The upstanding citizens, we can only have 2 of them, pistol, rifle, or repeater. So here's one of our chances to get some long-range weapons, and probably best to maybe park these guys with the rifle, just because they don't have that built-in -1 to shoot. You could do the rifles and repeaters for the volunteers, but you'd have to at least aim once to get back to 0 as far as your bonuses and penalties go. But yeah, rifle and repeaters gives you access to medium to long range firepower, 4 hits, 4+ nerve, 2 rep apiece, and you can only have the 2. So bigger games, definitely well worth taking. But here we get to the bottom, multiple volunteers, pistol, rifle, or repeater, but 2 can have shotgun, and given how cheap they are, I always love taking the shotguns on the cheap guys, because the shotgun's going to be an up-close weapon anyway. You get plenty of good bonuses for being close, and if you dump both barrels, that +6 really just becomes a +5, and some lucky dice rolls, even the low-level guys can definitely put that work in. So, I'd say like 3 volunteers, two with a shotgun, and then 1 maybe with a rifle to get the double aim as a perk there. Although even just sending a horde of little volunteers with pistols, getting up close and getting some positive buffs with the range and everything can be useful as well. But these guys have a 6+ nerve though, so when they can only take the 3 hits as well, so they don't necessarily last long. But sending a guy in to get that double barrel off and then hopefully drop somebody, they've done their job. If they live, great. Now let's get into the cards. So, and remember, the stranger doesn't get these cards played on him. So the Jack, I want you all out in the street in 10 minutes for drill. Play at the beginning of the turn. All of your characters get +1 to hit for the rest of the turn. That is crazy. So again, it doesn't apply to him, although it does say all your characters. So I would lean here that it doesn't apply to him, because I think that would still put him over the top. But here they should have said all but the stranger. So anyway, giving all your guys a +1 is pretty solid. It makes the volunteers just normal, and takes things like your sheriff and citizens into pretty good territory there. So, and really then getting your guys with buffs, and then you can still like aim twice with the rifle guys, stuff like that. There's plenty of good opportunities to make this a very impactful turn, assuming the dice don't screw you over. This is my house at the queen spot. Play on an opponent when one of their characters is within 5 centimeters or enters a building with one of your characters inside. They instantly receive an under fire marker, and this could take them out of action. So again, just a situational card, but at the right time. And if the opponent doesn't know about this yet, this can just like really mess them up. Certainly helps being able to put damage on a clean enemy character, but at certain situations, if they're getting a little greedy, they've got some damage on them, but they're pushing, and boom, play this card and just take out an opponent's. It doesn't specify which type of character, so you could take out a leader or even their elite guy with this. So this can be a nasty little surprise for sure. King, don't shoot, I'm unarmed. Play when one of your characters is about to be shot. The opposing firing character loses any declared shots. No further characters may shoot at this character for the remainder of the turn. That's hilarious. So basically, like you're invulnerable as far as shooting goes until the end of the turn, even though you're technically not unarmed. So just helps keep somebody alive. And again, can't be played on the stranger, because that would just be busted. The fact that they couldn't be shot at for the end of the turn while they can do what they can do already with the stranger's abilities, that'd be too much. But nonetheless, cool for keeping a character alive, and really just essentially wasting an opponent's declared actions. So pretty nasty stuff. And then finally, Ace, you killed my cousin. Play immediately after one of your characters is taken out of action. Place an additional volunteer model within 10 centimeters of where the casualty was. They keep the character's initiative card if it hasn't yet been played, and may activate this turn. They are armed with the same weapons as the original character. So again, pretty potent there, and if you can get this multiple times in the game, it just says one of your characters, so it could be if the sheriff or the citizens, or again, the volunteers are taken out, but essentially you get to spawn a new character, same gear, potentially same initiative, and so it's going to make it harder. If you can recycle this card multiple times in the game, it's going to make it that much harder for the opponent to ultimately wipe your force out, being able to essentially get another character back. So really nasty, and again, something that you could spring on the opponent if they haven't played against this faction yet, and really surprise them, and just in some cases really frustrate them. So some really neat cards with really powerful abilities when played at the right time. I do still love the blanket ability there with the Jack one, just hit +1 to hit across the board. Really good stuff. So let us know, guys, if you've built and played Stranger Faction, how you've gone about equipping your list for various size games, and where you've had success against other factions and where you've struggled. So hit us up in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. We'll have more Dead Man's Hand for you guys very soon.